Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses as well for sharing your insight and expertise here. I think this is a timely hearing. We're hearing, I think, relevant topics that I find chilling and that I think most Americans do as well. We heard it earlier that tax-exempt status is a privilege and not a right. I also know that what separates our country from so many others is the philanthropic efforts of many and investments in our economy that can deliver very positive results and create more opportunity for a lot of others. It's interesting when we see a debate taking place in California now that this so-called billionaire tax. Now, some politicians would say being a billionaire should be illegal. That disappoints me. That I guess stands to reason that would seemingly come from folks who just see America differently. And the demonization of prosperity, in fact, that you would never realize, given the demonization of prosperity out of Washington, D.C., you'd never realize that our tax code depends very heavily on financial success and that revenue that is important. And so now we have scenarios where folks have benefited off of the U.S. economy, and now they want to undermine it. We have to ask ourselves the question, why and how could that be? This debate taking place in California, though, on the billionaire tax, it's interesting that the governor now opposes that. I assume it's because he's concerned about more folks moving out of the state of California, as has been the case. Hearing the various names and entities, I know they've impacted elections in Nebraska. And our Attorney General, Mike Hilders, is looking into this, and I appreciate his steadfast review of that. But all the while, when we have these debates, I can't help but think of the good things that charitable activities can achieve. And yet, I fear that the bad stuff that's happening, shall I say the abuses as well, that are happening, I think should concern all of us. But Mr. Dubinsky, the term fiscal sponsorship is essentially an arrangement where a tax-exempt organization lends its status to a non-exempt party, allowing that party to receive tax-deductible contributions for its projects. Fairly simple approach here. While often used for legitimate incubation, it creates a structure where a private entity can effectively piggyback off the public's trust in 501c3 organizations. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's basically lending the tax-exempt status of one organization to another. There's supposed to be oversight from the sponsor to the non-sponsored organization or to the sponsored organization, but many times you'll see that there's not proper oversight, and that's where it becomes a slippery slope. So on its face, a fiscal sponsorship, there's no problem with it. But again, if it's misused for nefarious reasons, that's when you end up on that slippery slope, and there can be problems with it. So I think identifying, as I said earlier in the answer to a question in my opening remarks, identifying on the Form 990 if a tax-exempt organization is involved with fiscal sponsorships, just a simple checkbox. Another question on the Form 990 can arm the IRS with additional information. If they start to see, and maybe it goes further than that, maybe there are some more sub-questions. If you do have a fiscal sponsorship, and there's a series of questions underneath that, would arm the IRS with the information they need to then properly see if it's legitimate, if they need to investigate further. You know, this is all about following the money. I come back to this all the time as a forensic accountant. You have to follow the money and see who's paying it, why it's being paid, what's the substance of the transaction, not so much the form, but what's the true underlying substance of that transaction.
Right, and I think you touched on ultimately what my concerns are. Why would an established charity take on the massive legal and even financial liability of sponsoring a non-exempt project? I think, well, go ahead.
Yeah, look, there could be legitimate reasons for doing so. If the nonprofit doesn't have the manpower or the specific expertise in furtherance of the charitable cause, another organization may have that, and it's proper to have a fiscal sponsorship. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's done quite often. But if you take that situation and abuse it, that's where trouble can occur. So again, it's about transparency or the lack thereof. When things are opaque and you can't see through them, that's when bad actors start to manipulate the system, and that's what we're starting to see. That's what needs to be changed.
And you think we can appropriately kind of root that out or split that up?
I do. I think we need to start somewhere. I think, and starting with the forms, I know there was a comment about the IRS has lost 27,000 people. It's not about the manpower at the IRS, so to speak. It's about the expertise to work smarter and more efficiently. I work alongside revenue agents and criminal investigators all the time. They're wonderful people. They're smart. They need the tools, and that funding for tools is important. It's not a matter of body count or head count in that perspective, but training the right people and having the information come in on the front end that they can act on in a timely fashion.
Would the gentleman
Very well,
yield?
thank you. My time has expired. That would be up to the chair.
Richie, I'll recognize you first.
So